All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to talk about Floyd Mayweather Jr. the Great and Terence Bud Crawford at the Hall of Fame induction, and Floyd Mayweather Jr. confirming what Terence Crawford has said all along about the Errol Spence Jr. fight. And in this video, I know y'all think I always hate on Terence, which I don't, but I'm 100% agreement with it. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. In this video, we're going to be in the Hall of Fame division of boxing. Floyd Mayweather Jr. was just inducted along with the most incredible class of boxers that I've ever seen into the Boxing Hall of Fame, or at least for me, being a guy that's been watching boxing in the 70s, a little bit in the 70s, but in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, 210s, up into the 220s that we're in right now, and absolutely positively some of the best fighters of this century and the latter part of the last century got inducted. And in the speech that Floyd Mayweather Jr. gave, he confirmed what Terence Crawford had said several years ago, and something that I gotta say I agree with, and I hope that it's true. But before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, thank you so much for your support. Please accept my invitation to hit that subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. If you are a longtime subscriber, thank you so much for your support in the live streams and in the videos that we do. Please make sure you guys hit that like button and share the video on your social media. Really does help the channel grow. Thank you very much. All right, so let's get into this. Maybe about a year ago, Terence Crawford said, look, I don't need the Errol Spence Jr. fight because I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame regardless. I am already in the Hall of Fame. So some people at the time questioned whether or not that was true, whether or not he really does need the Errol Spence Jr. fight to solidify his legacy and, get him over the top in that regard. However, yesterday, when Floyd Mayweather Jr. was inducted, he talked about Terence Crawford briefly in his speech and acknowledged Terence Crawford and said, because Terence Crawford was up at the front table with all of the inductees, he got his fist cast for the Hall of Fame, and he says to the Hall of Fame, or he says to the people, this is Floyd Mayweather Jr., that Terence Crawford is coming to the Hall of Fame, and that I do believe is 100% accurate, and should be acknowledged 100% by everybody now, and hopefully when his career is over in a few years, that will take place for him, whether or not he has the Errol Spence Jr. fight or not. Now, one of the reasons why I'm saying it's important to recognize that is because in the midst of talking about the Errol fight, the Terence Crawford, there's a lot of stuff that goes back and forth between, people that think this guy will win the fight, people think the other guy will win the fight. Errol's going to destroy him. Terence is going to knock him out. And, when you look and you see all those people, at least for me, when I look and I see guys like all on the same stage, you've got Miguel Cotto, you've got Juan Manuel Marquez, you have, Floyd Mayweather Jr. on there, and then you also have Roy Jones Jr., you got James Toney, you have Antonio Tarver, you have Bernard Hopkins, all of those guys getting inducted into the Hall of Fame at the same time, it just kind of puts it in perspective what we're doing, what we're seeing with these fights with Errol Spence Jr., with Manny Pacquiao, with Keith Thurman, with Terence Crawford, guys like Canelo Alvarez. Man, I could go on Deontay Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and how, when we're in the heat of the moment and there's a lot of, man, I don't like this guy, I want this guy to win, I want that guy to win, this guy's ducking, this guy's doing this. Even if you look all the way down to the weight classes and some of the younger fighters like Devin Haney, you have Gervonta Tank Davis, Vasily Lomachenko, Ryan Garcia, guys like that, Now, those are also going to be people eventually, if their careers go the right way, that are going to be in that Hall of Fame too, where at the end of all of it, we can look at these guys and really look at them and truly have appreciation for the thrills that they gave us through the entirety of their career. And that's what I think, while we're, going back and forth about the Errol and Terence fight, because that's the fun of boxing. And I've say this all the time, like when people take boxing take it too seriously. Now I understand being into it because I'm into it. I watch a lot of fights. I talk about boxing all the time, got a boxing channel, but at the same time, after having, watched the Bulls in the 90s and the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s, in the heat of the passion at that was going on, the heat of the competition kind of subsides. You realize you can sit back and look at these guys and really appreciate their talents. Their individual talents and their collective efforts are really what makes those sports and those moments really special. And what we went through with Floyd Mayweather Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, with Juan Manuel Marquez, and Juan Manuel Marquez, where Juan Manuel Marquez fought those 4 fights with Pacquiao. Floyd Mayweather gets that fight with Pacquiao. Floyd fights, all these other guys that he fought, Miguel Cotto and Shane Mosley, when Shane Mosley almost knocks him out. It's just really is that, the entirety, not one person can create an era by themselves. You need to have that level of competition between people. But at the end of it, and it's all done, you wind up looking back and appreciating everybody. So, I know that there's this idea of giving people flowers. Right. And when I'm talking about Terence Crawford, I really do try my best to express how highly I think of him as a fighter. Like in this fight with Errol, I fully understand that Terence Crawford has the ability to win that fight, man. In fact, I was looking at him standing next to Floyd and looking at him standing next to Bernard Hopkins. I was like, God, dog, this dude looks really, really big. Look like very, very fit, very, very strong, right? So, I understand that he's a very, very serious threat to Errol, and he may be able to pull that fight out. At the same time, people that think Errol's just got a bunch of people jocking him or whatever, he's somebody else to be appreciated too because of all the great fights that he has gone through, right? And whether or not they're going to be in the Hall of Fame, somebody will be, it will be immortalized by that particular institution and remembered over the years and years. I think for both of these guys, it's already settled that they're both already at that level. Now, Terence obviously is probably a little bit further along in that regard than Errol Spence Jr. is. But man, Errol's got Errol having done what he's done in his career so far. And win or lose for either one of these guys, man, they go on and continue to push forward and may actually still get to that point, because you see Juan Manuel Marquez up there, and Juan Manuel Marquez lost to Floyd Mayweather Jr., lost several times to Manny Pacquiao. You got Miguel Cotto, who's there, who lost to Floyd, lost to Manny, right? Actually, got messed over by Antonio Margarito in those fights. In the first of those 2 fights, is out there and is remembered as a great, man. So, I do think like seeing that and hearing what Floyd had to say about Terence, man, I thought that was absolutely beautiful. And, just kind of reminded me that, look, you just got to appreciate a lot of these guys for their talents and what they have, and, give them the credit that they deserve for being the absolute excellent athletes and competitors that they are on the professional level. And that goes both for Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. It goes for Gervonta Davis and Devin Haney. It goes for Canelo Alvarez, provided he starts fighting some of these dudes. And, now honestly, that's a shame. That's the shame of it for me with Canelo Alvarez and Jermall Charlo, Canelo Alvarez and Demetrius Andrade and David Benavidez, because by not fighting these guys, he is preventing them from having an opportunity to engage and share in what these guys are doing that we saw in Canastota last night, where these guys had all fought each other. Even though one guy last night, really did rise above pretty much everybody else in their career, which is Floyd Mayweather Jr. Still, man, he was like, look, there's so many great fighters, so many people that did so much, and it's just a shame not to see these guys get a chance to get in the ring with Canelo and have those, have that golden moment, whether win or lose, that they can, they'll live on in history, like they say, live on in history, right? Or the legacies, right? But anyway, man, I just thought that was really interesting. I enjoyed it. Congratulations to Floyd, and congratulations to Terence Crawford, because no doubt about it, man, that dude's going to the Hall of Fame for having the belts at 135, undisputed at 140, doing what he's done, having a several-year title reign at 147. Whether or not that Errol Spence Jr. fight has popped off yet or not, it's not going to hold that dude back from what he wants to accomplish, and which is being right there and getting voted into that institution. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. You let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Peace.